Is the best way to stop climate breakdown and social collapse nonviolent rebellion? Check this out from Extinction Rebellion's co-founder. And leave your comments, ding the bell, share it with your friends, and subscribe to our channel. Very happy to have Roger Hallam. He is the British environmental activist, organic farmer, and most significantly, the co-founder of the Extinction Rebellion. He's also the author of a new book, Common Sense for the 21st Century. Only nonviolent rebellion can now stop climate breakdown and social collapse. Roger, welcome to the program.
Yeah, hi, thanks.
We here in the United States, we occasionally hear a story about Extinction Rebellion, but the vast majority of them are limited to progressive websites. Tell us about the organization, how it came about, and what y'all do.
Yeah, well, it came about because a whole bunch of people decided that reality has hit and the human race is heading towards extinction in so much as we understand the science. And if we're heading for extinction and this is a policy of world governments, then it seems to be justified to rebel against them. So hence Extinction Rebellion. Started off about 18 months ago with 15 people in a room in Bristol in the UK, and now it's in about 70 countries around the world, and over 200,000 people are mobilised in the UK, and it's involved in mass civil disobedience.
I don't... go ahead.
Yeah.
I don't have a website here on my notes for Extinction Rebellion. Is it extinctionrebellion.org?
Yeah, if you put that into Google, you'll get the various websites, yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh, it would depend on what country you're in or that sort of thing, because
That's right, yeah, there's different organizations.
Oh, yeah, it's xramerica.org here for the American version. I see. Okay, cool. So what sorts of rebellion should we be engaging in, or do you engage in?
Well, in my book, Common Sense for the 21st Century, I'm basically giving my own views. So I'm not speaking on behalf of Extinction Rebellion in this interview or anything. Mm-hmm. Basically, I was planning to come to the United States to promote an argument, and that argument is that the political system is fundamentally incapable of responding to the climate emergency, given the time frame and given the urgency and the extremity of what is objectively required in order to stop putting carbon into the atmosphere. And the mechanism through which to change political regimes is through mass civil disobedience. And that seems, again, on the basis of the science, or the social science in that case, as the most effective way to bring about rapid political change in the shortest time possible when a government's engaged in genocidal activity.
This is, kind of an abstract conversation. Can you give me a specific example of these kinds of actions that you or others have engaged in that have produced a positive result, or at least started a conversation?
Yeah. I mean, I think first of all, it's important to understand the extremity of what we're facing. I mean, a lot of journalists ask me about the tactics and, what we do and what we don't do. And it's very easy to forget that we're actually facing something that human beings have never faced in their history, which is a complete breakdown of the geophysical system, the climate system. And that's inevitably going to lead to mass starvation. And mass starvation is going to lead to all the things that we read about in the history books: war, slaughter, rape, and social breakdown. And that's not some conspiracy theory. It's not some, radical political thing. I'm a business person. I've been running organic business for 30 years. It's people across the political spectrum have been reading the science, and we've been looking at the science, as you well know, for 30 years now, and all the predictions are coming true. And so people are in this new emotional situation of realizing that 2 + 2 does actually equal 4, and this hell is coming down the road. Now, only once you've sort of emotionally engaged with that in terms of the grief and the depression and the despair, can you start to understand what is required. And obviously, what is required is mass disruption to the system that's taking ourselves and most certainly our children to their deaths. And what that involves is mass civil disobedience, which classically speaking means people going to the large cities or the capital cities and staying there until a government fundamentally changes its policies. And that's the primary objective of Extinction Rebellion.
Okay. And Common Sense for the 21st Century, your book is available pretty much everywhere, I'm assuming. George Monbiot wrote a great piece on the front cover. Brilliant, wise, profound, and persuasive. Well done, Roger. And
yeah, I don't think, to be perfectly honest with you, I don't think I'm saying anything that is intellectually problematic.
I agree.
It's not difficult to understand the rationale. What's difficult is to engage emotionally with that reality, and this is the whole point behind civil disobedience. That as we know, human beings don't respond well to threats in the future. They'll sit there until it happens, and then, of course, in this case, it'll be too late. So the fundamental argument here is that you have to create that shock to the system before you get the geophysical shock. And that shock, the best way of doing that is to close down an economy or close down a city so that everyone starts to wake up to what's happening. Now, initially, of course, they're all going to hate you because who wants to have, their trip to work slowed down? But as happens, if the cause is just, as you might say, if it's like a no-brainer of what you're saying, then people do come round to the view that this is actually happening because they're actually getting disrupted. And then you get large-scale attitude change. And in the UK, there was 3,000 people arrested last year, which was the biggest civil disobedience event in British history, even bigger than the suffragettes. And that created a massive change in public perceptions of exactly how serious this is. Like 55% of the population in Britain now is very seriously concerned about climate change. Now, that's doubled, or tripled over the last year or two. And that's primarily because it's been made real, because people can see thousands of ordinary people getting dragged off the streets by the police, because they've decided they've had enough.
Yeah, we saw this here in the United States in the 1960s with the Civil Rights Movement. And we saw it here in the United States, not in my lifetime, but in the 1900s and the 19-teens with the suffrage movement. And in both cases, they led to radical and substantial changes. In the case of the suffragist movement, in 1920, women got the vote in the United States. And in the case of the civil rights, particularly in the late 50s, early 60s, Rosa Parks, the Montgomery bus boycott. There's just a whole bunch of, that was probably the most famous, led to the Civil Rights Act, the Voting Rights Acts in 1965 and 66, as I recall, or maybe 64 and 65, but whatever. This works.
Yeah, it works. It's a bit of a no-brainer. There's overwhelming historical evidence to it. Obviously not straight away and not obviously in every case, right? You're dealing with human societies and what have you. But compared with the alternatives, which is engaging in violence or engaging in, conventional political activity, sending emails and all that sort of stuff that's been going on for 30 years, this is by far the most effective way of doing it. But I think it's really important to understand that this isn't like previous social movements, in the sense that what we're dealing with now is like a cliff edge. Even though like racism and women's rights and all these things were terrible social issues in time, there were fundamentally linear problems. They weren't getting worse by the year.